June the 3rd, 2024. Guys, this is pretty amazing information here. Before we start, though, let me say we're continuing to get X1 flares and very strong M flares, both from the sunspot that's in the southern hemisphere of the sun, and this afternoon a very strong M popped off from the one that was in the northern hemisphere that was also a multiple magnetic complex. So I've been watching it. Nothing Earth-facing as far as a coronal mass ejection, or I would have been on top of that. But here is some of the largest, if not the largest stock on the planet's Berkshire Hathaway A. They also have a Berkshire Hathaway /B group. This one is the large one. Now we're looking at Zero Hedge, and they've got it tucked away on the back pages of CNBC. You have to go there, and it's a side company, and then you got to sign in and all this to get to actually read it. But Zero Hedge, and I think maybe Gateway Pundit has this also, they're trying to keep this down. It's the biggest news of the entire investment history of the U.S., and this includes, if you look at the amount of money that it went down to, it bounced back, but it went down 100%. Today it was worth $627,400 a share right there. It went down to 185.1, and they're calling it a 100% drop. They're claiming it was a technical glitch. Now, again, it's back up. It hasn't got back to its highs, but there's a group there, I think A and B, of Berkshire Hathaway, again, Warren Buffett, and then other investors that are tied into this group, and they're tied into the same trading network, if I read it right, some of the other information. But, and they're saying that it's very interesting that just a couple of the stocks out of this group on the same technical network were hit. Now, it looks like it was a hack. They're saying the technical glitch was fixed, but I don't know about that. We've seen a lot of problems lately, but when you know that Berkshire has probably one of the best security networks on the planet. He can basically have anything he wants, right? And so it was a hard hit. Now, it reminds me of going back to the days of, if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, which I prefer the book, but the movie was interesting, is Atlas Shrugged near the end, and things were getting very tough. Politics were getting crazy, if you remember. There was sabotage here and there. They didn't have the internet, and they didn't have the ability to hack into the trading in the book or in the movie. Not that I remember. But guys, this is critical. 100% drop in hours. I think maybe one of the largest stocks there is. So if more than likely it was not a technical glitch, because again, too many companies inside that would have been affected by the same glitch were not. So they paid a hacker, something happened. They paid, or let's just go along with they're saying they fixed the glitch, okay? And if it was hacked, I'm sure that one side of the aisle will say it was Russia, the other side will say China. And you could say that and maybe be right on both ends, and maybe they're inside the U.S. You know, we've got a lot of newcomers coming into the nation. And with the credit cards they get, it'd be easy to set up a few laptops with some prime hackers coming from other nations inside, like a Trojan horse, and do this damage to collapse the system. Why am I saying that? Because they're doing everything they can to collapse it now. Look at the interest rates. And guys, think about this. If you are in the mindset that these people are, that they need to depopulate the planet, one way to do it is to starve people, make them weak, feed them crummy food where they're not really, they're not militarily fit, let's say that. And you can do that a couple of different ways. We just saw a few days ago the largest open chicken plant, I think one of the largest in the world here in the U.S. There's a huge fire, like some type of war going on there. But we've seen that many times. The food supplies being attacked, from fertilizer to seeding to everything. Millions of birds being wiped out, different types of livestock, things like that. So you got that attack that's obvious. One of the things, if you think about it, the other way to weaken the population through the food is to make the prices so high that you can afford about half of what you used to could, even if it's half, okay? So that attack of the people bringing, again, it would make it very hard for people to stay very healthy with what's going on. That's another reason to have some backup. Now, when you see something like this again, 627,400 was the number on the stocks. Let me just pull this up, because this would be impossible, I know, to see at least on a cell phone. Again, I had to look at this a few times, and I've got it zoomed up, guys, so maybe you can see it. The high, this is today, 627,400. That's a high number for stocks. And you can see over here the scale of it goes down, and then here it will say, let me move everything here down, that it went to 100%. The gold arrows on the right, again, are today. Now, the low was at 185.1. Think of that. Now, so they're calling minus 100%. They almost lost everything. Once the glitch was fixed, they've bounced back up, both B and A. But again, A is the big boys. Now, this is dated today. This is Zero Hedge. It is also on a couple other sites, and again on CNBC. If you scroll through the little mini prints, it will link you to an outside article from a different financial company. Again, you have to sign up for it. They're saying basically the same thing. It says, after Berkshire crashes to zero, the New York Stock Exchange says technical issue has been resolved and all systems are operational. This was updated at 12:02 this afternoon Eastern Time. It says, after a cascade of circuit breakers pushed various New York Stock Exchange stocks and instantly halted trading, the exchange said in an email that the technical issue with the industry-wide price bands published by the CTA SIP has been resolved and all systems are currently operational. Again, when they say that, 9 times out of 10, these glitches, and they don't want to scare people. I don't blame them. They don't. You have a massive outflow of stock investors. It says all impacted stocks have reopened and the price band issue has been resolved. It also says that this issue triggered trading halts in a number of New York Stock Exchange listed stocks. Now, this is kind of, in these 3 paragraphs, guys, what makes me think that this was some type of an event, not just a glitch in the system. Something caused that glitch because of the way it happened. It says, as we noted earlier, that Berkshire Hathaway A shares appeared to go off at a mistaken prices. About a dozen trades showed shares changed hands at $185.10 around 9:50 a.m. In other words, someone dumped this price in, and we're looking at a huge amount, 627,400 at the beginning of the day. This says it's a discount of 99.97% to Friday's closing price. NewScale Power had a similar glitch with trades that printed at about 99% below the prior price. Now, guys, that should tell you all you need to know. Regardless of who did it, it doesn't matter. It's happening. What does it mean? That whether it's a self-collapse, which we saw again in Atlas Shrugs. Remember, they would collapse whatever the government was trying to take over. We had a very smart group of people in this book, women and men that ran empires. But the government decided more than likely they were outspending what they made, so they started to tax everybody and start to take over corporations. And the geniuses of these technical corporations, including the making of steel, remember, the railroad tracks, things like bridges, things like that, they bugged out. You know, I think they ended up in Colorado using their technology to hide out. So that could indicate that there is an inside reason for this. So again, whether it's from outside the U.S., inside the U.S., or inside a company, one of the companies tied to this, something's going on, and it's an indicator that the banking system is in trouble. Now, I don't own any shares. If I can't touch it, I don't care to have it, because one glitch, and you've got $627,000 shares hitting 185.10. People were probably, if they wanted to talk about this article, thinking about jumping off the damn building. You remember they said that happened during the Great Depression, and it's happened since then. Anyway, something's going down. So even if you're not invested, when the banking system goes down, the system collapses. Anarchy will set in, guys. The government will step in with whatever security forces and whatever emergency supplies for you and your group to move to certain camps and take care of you. You know, they are here to help. That's around the corner from this, whether you have a stock or not. And this is interesting to me. I mentioned it earlier. This is from Jonathan Corpini, the senior managing partner at Meridian Equity Partners. He said, I would assume that those bad trades will be broken. It's very confusing that it is happening in just a few shares. A representative of the NYSE declined to comment on the matter beyond the exchange's market status update page. The Intercontinental Exchange Incorporated is the owner of the New York Stock Exchange. They don't really talk about this because I don't think just a technical glitch will do this, guys. And guys, if you think about it, you see the collapse of a stock that big, that expensive, collapse in one day. Do you realize how fast Babylon can fall? I hope you do. It says the limit up, limit down trading bands typically govern when stocks are paused for volatility. The SIP is a single data feed where regulatory bodies process and consolidate bid and ask quotes and trades from all U.S. exchanges. Somewhere in this trade, in this exchange, that price got dropped tremendously. It says the sudden disruption Monday comes just days after a glitch left the S&P 500 index without live pricing for an hour, and as the market adapts to quicker settlement times for the U.S. stock trades. So, well, if you're a heavy investor in the S&P 500, you have no idea for an hour in the middle of a trading day what's going on with your stocks, and you're looking over here at on the Dow, and you're seeing the largest economy in the market. We're talking about Warren Buffett, right? Go to nothing. It's time to wake up. He says it's a little weird, but almost undoubtedly coincidental. Now, this is Steve Sosnick. He's the chief strategist at Interactive Brokers, LLC, of the New York Stock Exchange. And what he's referring to is last week's glitch with the S&P 500. We've gotten used to huge amounts of uptimes without exchange incidents, so when a couple of glitches in a row occur, it is noticeable. Explain to me how a glitch can drop your price that much. I don't quite get that. It's somebody collapsing the system from within or without. Chipotle was down 1.2% at 9:44 a.m. New York time when it was halted. Abbott gained as much as 1.9% on Monday. Halts are normally triggered by a series of factors, most commonly for rapid and large changes in price and volume. And of course that makes sense. If you had a hack, or if there's just a run on a bank or something like that, due to something, maybe the business enemies of that business threw a wrench into the machine, if you understand what I'm saying. They via fear factor create a run. Guys, and that fear factor thing happens all the time, and it just happened. If you ever watch The Economic Ninja, he's on YouTube, then he was talking about, I think it may have been today, may have been yesterday, but he said that there was a scare about McDonald's completely going out of business that ended up being a hoax. And the reason he didn't jump on it, like a lot of even news outlets, mainstream and alternative sites, they jumped on it right away. But he said he didn't because he knew that something was wrong. And what he said is this, and it makes sense. McDonald's are independently owned franchises. Some may not be doing so good, but it's not really like the company can declare bankruptcy on these franchise holders, because you're talking about lawsuits that you can't deal with. Now, they're saying that something snapped this morning at 9:40 a.m. He said, we just saw one of the world's largest companies, Berkshire Hathaway, wipe out just about 100% of its value and crash to basically zero. That's the chart I was showing you at the beginning of this video. So, guys, the collapse of the economy is upon us. I've said a long time ago, the last 3.5 years at least, that our economy and the stock market are completely not connected. That's a whole different class of wealth that is not affected by a slight change at the grocery store in prices. But the rest of us are. Again, it's the weakening down of the masses. But this is something I've been watching for. I knew this would be a trigger. I didn't know it would be this big. Last year we had a lot of the banks on the West Coast, which were part of the, I think it may be the San Francisco Federal Reserve area. They have a certain name there, but it was all tied into that group. All of those collapses that we saw was by that group in New York. And we've seen New York collapse, in California. And we've seen California collapse year after year on purpose. It's like they're clearing everybody out because someone maybe coming across the Pacific would like to own that and have some low-class employees, or low-paid employees, not low-class, I said that wrong, very low-paid employees that would work and vote the way they wanted, kind of like they already have overseas. Now, this is a link that's called Market Trading Halts. It's got the current trading halts, and this is today. I think most of this is. But it starts out a lot of these companies I'm not familiar with, but look at it. You may be tied in with someone or know people that are, but or you may want to also look up how strong some of these folks are, and if their stocks were halted, it was because of a sudden price drop or change. It goes either way. They can halt it, and it's a safety switch that really does need to be in place. But you've got Alt Disruptive Technologies, Avalon Global Care, got Hywen Holdings, Singularity Future Tech, Hywen Holdings Limited again, the Concord Medical Services. It goes on and on. I will link you to this. Concord Medical Logistic Properties, JP Morgan, here we go. Digital Health, again, Avalon, Alt. These were the times that were paused. In other words, if Alt was shut down here, then it was cut back on, and it was shut, then they had to cut it back off until they completed the whatever happened, right? The correction of that. And it goes on, Affirmed, Denali Capital, Axel Brands, in Concord Medical, here twice in a row. And this was in 5 or so minutes. Avalon Global, Denali again, Power REIT, Spider S&P Semiconductor ETF, electronically traded funds, guys. So this is very large, but again, it was selective. It wasn't throughout the entire group. And that's, again, I'll link to this and you can take a look at it. It goes on and on. There's a couple more pages here. So a lot of people, a lot of money, but you're talking about the big dog when you're talking about Berkshire Hathaway. When the giant falls, Atlas Shrugs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Again, the links will be below. Guys, be prepared. Times are getting close. God will not tolerate Babylon very longer. And I think Babylon is a global problem now. It's a heads up, guys. Be safe.